Okay. Well, to honor the fact that we're all here and that people are able to get on time, even though there's always a challenge every time in every meeting, I want to say good evening and thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Dr. Dave Patterson. I serve on the Placer County Board of Education and also as Vice President for ACCBE. I am filling in tonight for ACCB President Bina Lefkowitz, who unfortunately at the last minute had a conflict, so she can't actually attend tonight. Next slide, please. Okay, as typical, we try to have an agenda, and the one thing that we want to do at every time we meet is, in fact, make sure we spend time connecting with each other, trustees from across the state. If so, we all get to know each other better, and we can all basically empower each other with our shared experiences and how we can help each other in a peer-to-peer type of way. The big thing tonight is, and I'll do a more formal introduction, is that we are very thrilled to have Dr. Linda Darling-Hammond and Designing the Future of Education with her as our main speaker and our main presentation. So we'll be turning that over to her in a little bit, but through her work, we're going to hear about how to design solutions for learning recovery, deeper learning, high school redesign, and planning, frankly, for the future of education. And then at the end of the meeting, we're going to try to identify, okay, this is all great stuff. What do we do with it? How do we work with it? How is it, in fact, going to empower us and the families and the students and the communities we serve throughout the state? Next slide, please. Now, this is a slide you should all start being very familiar with because it lays out our key goals for ACCBE, and they're powerful ones. So first is to advocate and amplify. We are dedicated to making sure we advocate both in the legislative process and also on policy issues for issues that county boards of education uh, feel strongly about and feel a need to have our unique interests and how they impact county offices of education represented both in policy and in the legislative process. The second part is that there's a recognition that to do that, we need a partnership. We need a partnership for success. And our strongest partner has to be with the California Superintendents Association and our colleagues, county superintendents. We also talk about our coalitions with other allied groups to leverage the resources and expertise in the support of student success. So it's partnerships, and then we have to also work with ourselves and for ourselves. We need to engage, elevate, and empower. Uh, we can't be effective until we are effective as a board in terms of building leadership capacity within our boards, fostering that collaboration and peer-to-peer support. So we've got to be good so that we can be good for the counties and the students and the children we serve. And then the last one I think is actually one of the more interesting ones for because most organizations in California, and I can speak to 35 plus years of that, are often about the status quo and protecting what they have. And ACCB is looking to focus on innovative solutions to address evolving challenges. We're looking to, in fact, innovate. We're looking in fact, to change. And so those are some of those are the four key pillars or goals of our organization. Next slide, please. Now, we've been at this as we think about it, as we reflect on it, we've been at this virtually since January 1. And in those 5 months, 24 of our boards have come together to join ACCBE, representing almost 60% of all students served throughout this state. We facilitated a whole host of meetings and activities to learning and solution panels regarding CTE, the teacher shortage, with the Division of Apprenticeships, UC Teachers Prep Programs, and one of our own colleagues from the past, Reach University, and Joe Ross. We facilitated 10 engagements for county board trustees to learn about their roles, network with each other, develop ideas and solutions. This includes a new set of workshops and mentoring for newly elected board members, but also the opportunity for experienced board members, because the issues aren't going away. The challenges continue to rise, and this is our opportunity to work together to do that. Part of that is we're trying to establish personal relationships, personal and professional relationships with all trustees across the county or across the state. Right now, that number is 120 plus. We've launched our advocacy committee. We've sent letters of support on key bills. We're building an infrastructure that allows our members to have a voice in that process. What bills are important to you? What issues are, in fact, hurting your communities that you need help on? And how to, in fact, make sure your voice is heard. And then we've formalized some partnerships with key players, the Association of California Superintendents, our colleagues in this work, and the Small School Districts Association. So those are just pieces of the work that we've committed to do. Okay. Next slide, please. As much as we've accomplished, this is a quick overview of what's coming next. And it shows the type of activities that you can look forward to, and frankly, are based on the feedback you've given us. So this is, in fact, what we've heard from you. So we're talking about our activities, including tonight's. We're talking about the fact that our board keeps meeting, that we have special presentations, dyslexia and the literacy piece on the 16th of this month. We've got activities in August, September, October, November, and December. We have, on the right-hand side, we have the type of communication we want to do with you on an ongoing basis that you participate in, that you add to, but also helps inform you. And so I hope you get a feel for what we all together are accomplishing, because it's a great deal. And as I reflect a bit back as one of the many people that are involved with ACCBE, that also was involved with CCBE, to the prior organization, we did a lot for CCBE. There was a lot we accomplished, but frankly, this being part of the new organization is entirely innovation driven and exciting, because we are doing that and more. So I'm really thrilled with that. Okay, next slide, please. And let me do an introduction. This is going to be an icebreaker. And with that, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Christopher Williams. We are very appreciative of the experience and dedication and expertise that Mr. Williams has brought to ACCBE. Mr. Williams.
Oh, Dave, thank you for such a nice introduction. Good evening, folks. I'm Christopher Williams. I'm the program director for ACCBE, and I'm here today to facilitate your icebreaker. During our quarterly county board gatherings, we like to give you all a chance to get to know one another, get to know who's on the call, and share a little bit about yourselves. So either in the chat or join me off mute to respond to the question that you see displayed here. You'll share your name, your county, and the years of service that you've provided, and then respond to the questions by letting us know what book, article, or research are you currently reading about education. And we're looking to hear from a few folks because I know that there are a few of us here who, like me, are a little bit of eggheads and nerdy who read often. So I'm looking to you all to go ahead and get us started. I, as a former teacher, do like to play the eye contact game. And though you can't see my eyes, I can see yours. So without further ado, I think I may go ahead and call on someone, unless we have a brave volunteer who wants to join us off mute and share what books they're currently reading or research or articles. All right. Looks like my first victim is going to be Sarah Butler.
Okay, hi, I'm Sarah Butler. I'm on the Contra Costa County Board of Education. I've been on this board for about 6 years, since 2018. And my question about what am I reading? Well, I'm not reading any books, but I'm researching charter schools, because we have another charter school up in front of us coming up at our next board meeting. So researching all the details about charter renewal. Thank you.
That's fascinating, Sarah. Who do you want to pass it to? Who do you want to pick on next?
Oh, Beverly Gerard.
Hi, I'm from San Mateo County, board, and I've actually been serving for about 36 years. And I am currently not reading anything, but I am working very diligently on 2 committees and researching a lot of information for our board on housing. And also we're redoing our court and community school.
Thank you for sharing, Bev. Who do you want to pass it to next? We have time for about 3 or 4 more folks.
Let me see. Let's see. How about Renee?
Are you Raina?
Uh-huh.
Okay. So my name is Raina Lari. I'm with the Santa Clara County Board of Education. I've been there for 2.5 years so far. And I'm researching what are the factors that impact our students' health and well-being. And currently I'm organizing a talk with Dr. Robert Lustig from UCSF, who's working on nutrition and health. So that's what I'm working on. And I'll pass it on to Judy.
Hi, I'm Judy Hosapple. I'm from Glenn County, and I've been on the board for 18 years. At this time, I'm just kind of watching all the information and seeing what's happening with the federal education department, and I'm hoping that we get to the bottom of it and can get things back to the states.
Thank you for sharing. Who would you want to pass it to next? We have time for 2 more folks.
2 more folks. How about Michael Greer?
All right.
Okay, I'm Mike Greer from Del Norte. I've been 20 years on school boards, both county and unified school districts, 20 years as a teacher. Right now, all my spare time is going through the annual education conference for CSBA, going all over the workshops that are going to be presented and putting in my opinion what I think of the workshops. So that's what I've been doing for the last little bit. I have about 45 of those that I've been working on.
Wow, Michael, thank you. Who would you like to pass it to? We have Zach, Heather, Susan, and
Yeah, let's go ahead and go to Zach.
here we go.
Hi, I'm Zach Abernathy, Tuolumne County Superintendent, and I just finished a book study on a book called Grading for Equity.
Zach, could you say a few more words about that? What was that book about?
So it's just about how some of the traditional grading practices may not be the most equitable. I guess one of the biggest takeaways is grading on a 1 to 4 scale and doing away with the zeros. So it was a good book. I think probably the best part of the whole thing was the interaction with the people in the book study.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love a good book club and/or book study. Personally, I'm a fiction reader. So what I'm currently reading is Parables of the Sower by Octavia Butler. It's a sequel to a book she wrote in the 80s. It's fascinating, but it's actually set in 2025, oddly enough. It looks like we're still waiting on our guest speaker to attend. So we have a few more minutes to hear from some folks. I had one more question in my back pocket as I kind of just modeled. If anybody reads anything for fun, or if you have any topics that you spend time learning about that you think it's worth anyone else on this call hearing about, now would be a great time to go ahead and share that. I have time for one more comment. I think I see Mary's off mute.
I don't have a response to your question. My name is Mary Ann Sanders. I've been on the Stanislaus County School Board for 20 years, and I'm currently learning more about reciprocal teaching.
Oh, that actually is fascinating. Amazing. And I see that Dr. Hammond just joined us, so I'll go ahead and pass it back over to Dave.
Great. Next slide, please. Okay, now to the main event. It's my privilege to briefly review just some of the accomplishments and decades of service Dr. Linda Darling-Hammond brings to us and to the education community. So let me take a second to read just a short version of her accomplishments over time. Dr. Linda Darling-Hammond is the Charles E. Ducommun Professor of Education Emeritus at Stanford University and founding president of the Learning Policy Institute, created to provide high-quality research for policies that enable equitable and empowering education for each and every child. She is past president of the American Educational Research Association and author of more than 30 books and 600 other publications on educational equity and quality, including the award-winning book, The Flat World and Education: How America's Commitment to Equity Will Determine Our Future. In 2006, she was named one of the nation's 10 most influential people affecting educational policy. She led the Obama's educational policy transition team in 2008, and then the Biden's educational transition team in 2020. She was appointed as president of the California State Board of Education in 2019, a position she still continues to hold. And in 2022, Darling-Hammond received the Yiden Prize for Educational Research in recognition of her work that shaped educational policy and practice around the most equitable and effective ways to teach and to learn. We are thrilled to have you join us tonight. So
Thank you.
there we are. Good. And even the technology even works. I'm thrilled.
It's wonderful to be here. And I just want to appreciate all of the county board members, fellow board members. We have a very interesting role to play in the education landscape. And I really appreciate the time and the effort and the ups and the downs that I know you must be experiencing in these times in that role. So I'm really glad to be with you. I'm going to see if I can actually share my slides, share my screen to get to my slides, and talk a little bit about where we are in designing for the future of public education in California. This is a very critical inflection point for education all around the world, and I've been hearing from people in other countries as well as other states. And I want to bring you up to speed with what we're doing and hopefully leave a lot of time for some questions and answers also. So I'm going to whip through these, but I will make the slides available in case anybody wants them. So don't feel like you have to take a lot of notes along the way. I'm going to talk about learning recovery, which I know you must all be thinking about, especially in reading and math. I'm going to talk about the need for deeper learning and about the critical need for high school redesign and what California is doing as a state board, state department, and governor's office about all of these things. Just to bring you up to sort of speed with where we are, as you know, back in 2010, we were one of the lowest performing, lowest funded states of any in the country. We were well below the 40th in spending. We were 45th, 46th, 47th, 48th in every subject area in achievement. We had the largest class sizes, the smallest number of professionals, administrators, counselors, teachers in ratio to students. And we've been experiencing budget cuts every year. When Jerry Brown came in 2011, he began trying to infuse resources into the system through Proposition 30. We adopted the local control funding formula, the LCFF, and the accompanying local control accountability plans. We redesigned our standards. We redesigned our accountability system. Everything changed. And what you can see is that since 2011, over the subsequent decade or so, California had the largest gains in 8th grade reading of any country any state in the country. We were 48th in ranking in 2011. We reached the national average in 2022. We were one of the few states that did not fall back in literacy during the pandemic because of the infusions of many kinds of resources into our schools during that time by Governor Newsom. And we've maintained some forward progress, even while the student population has become much more low income. When I came in as state board president, about 58% of students were low income. It's now 65%. It's been going up about 2 percentage points every year. And we're more linguistically diverse. More than 50% of kindergartners come from homes where English is not the first language. Usually those things, have a strong negative effect on scores, but we've been, meanwhile making improvements in the way in which we educate students. So we have made progress there. California also gained during that decade in 8th grade math between the beginning of the decade, the century, and certainly from 2011 to 2019. We have declined like other states during the pandemic, but we declined less than other states, but we're still below the national average. So our needs in math are even greater than our needs in reading, and we are taking that very seriously at this juncture, although I would say that math was neglected for a while as we were paying more attention to other things. But finally, this past year, we could see that learning recovery is finally underway. It's been a rocky road, as you well know, but in this last year, we saw gains in ELA and math and science. And we saw the largest gains for socioeconomically disadvantaged students. So a closing of the gap between low-income students and others, as well as gains for African-American students and Latino students in all of those subject areas. So we're beginning to turn the corner, even as we have a more high-need student population. We've got a long way to go. I would say on the reading front, you've heard a lot about the science of reading and literacy. Our approach, which was embedded in the English Language Arts English Language Development Standards back in 2014, is grounded in the science of reading and literacy for both native English speakers and multilingual learners. So we are kind of unique in that regard because we're building out and using the science of reading for multilingual learners as well. And there are some differences in not necessarily differences, but additional elements that are really important. The Reading League is sort of the keepers of the science of reading, and they make the point that this is this vast body of research about reading and writing over many decades, and it informs how proficient reading and writing develop. And I'll say that reading and writing are closely intertwined, that the more we write proficiently, the better reading goes. The more we read, the better writing goes, but they really have to be taught hand in glove. And we've seen that in all of the states and districts that have made strong gains in literacy, that they don't just teach one element of reading, they teach the comprehensive science of reading and literacy. There was a joint statement between the Reading League of California and the National Reading League and the National Committee for Effective Literacy, which really looks at the progress for English learners. And they made the statement, a joint statement about a year or so ago, that the science of reading is not just an ideology or a fad or a pendulum swing. It is not just a specific component of instruction like phonics, although it includes phonics and phonemic awareness and other skills of decoding. But it is this bigger body of knowledge, which we have embedded in our framework. And as you can see, our reading and literacy scores went up from there. And we see it also in the positive outlier districts in California, which at the Learning Policy Institute we studied a few years ago, and they are still showing strong gains even now after the pandemic in most of these districts. These are districts where both white and Black and Latino students all were progressing at rates above those of similarly situated students in other districts. And when we looked at them a few years ago, and more recently as well, we found that all of these districts that are making strong gains have a very comprehensive approach to developing literacy that includes, of course, the foundational skills for decoding, but also oral language development, background knowledge, which you have to in order to understand what you're reading, vocabulary, particularly important for new English learners, writing and research, which by the way are tested in our English language arts tests in California, and comprehension. All of them are using formative assessments, diagnostic tools, particularly the kinds of tools that allow teachers to see students reading and writing and analyze it, not just get a score. They all had focused small group work with additional staff and used one-on-one tutoring for students who needed it. They also supported instruction that was focused on individual student needs. They were not using a pacing guide to use a standardized approach for all students. That would leave some behind and bore others. They were very engaged in figuring out where individual students were and where they needed to grow, building on those student experiences, integrating literacy into all the subject areas, engaging in professional development using professional learning communities, teachers observing in each other's classrooms, analyzing student work. They had all found collaboration time for teachers to work together on planning and problem solving. This is a big issue. As you probably know, in American schools, we offer less collaboration time for teachers than most other countries around the world. And our teachers are engaged in teaching students more hours per week and year than teachers in any other country around the world. And that makes it hard for them to improve their planning and curriculum because they don't have enough time to learn with and from each other. Coaches and reading specialists were present in all of these districts, supporting not only teacher planning and mentoring, but also work with high need students and with administrators. So we've been building literacy supports in California since 2021, including a comprehensive literacy development plan across the state, a dyslexia initiative, grants for professional development, funding for literacy coaches and reading specialists, a call for universal screening for risk of reading difficulties, which will be implemented this coming fall for the first time. We have a literacy roadmap now that will be released shortly and will be available to guide instruction across the grade levels. The new screener is implemented, and Universal Transitional Kindergarten is fully implemented this fall. We will have all 4-year-olds eligible. So we have begun to see the fruits of these investments, and we expect to see more from districts and counties that are able to use them effectively. The literacy roadmap will provide practical guidance, showing what a literacy block can and should look like, how it should incorporate also techniques for teaching English learners and specialized English language development. And then we'll have upcoming over this summer and fall webinars, consultation with experts, and so on. So we're moving forward, and now we have our new math framework, which was passed a couple of years ago. We're adopting instructional materials right now for the framework, and we will follow suit with the kind of professional learning that we've been investing in English language arts and reading. There will be math coach training available from the subject matter projects and specified counties who are gearing up for it now. For all districts, this is being managed out of the Kern County Office of Education with multiple other counties involved and the subject matter projects. And in the budget, which was, released in the May revise just a week or two ago, there is funding for math coaches in most districts as part of the governor's budget. And the reason we're investing in coaching is because math needs quite a big overhaul. You need people in the districts who are lead teachers, who are expert coaches, who know the shifts that are needed to implement the math framework, who have training to be good coaches, who can work with administration, with teachers, with teams, to help guide professional learning over a long period of time, rather than just vendors coming in and out for a couple of days of PD after school and then disappearing. We're going to need, major changes in many districts in the way that we teach math. And that's going to require ongoing professional support. So the investment will be in coaching. And the first order of business, there's also funding in the budget for professional development. Beyond that, the Learning Policy Institute partnered with the California School Boards Association to produce this research and policy brief that provides a lot of information for school board members about what are the shifts in practice in math that are called for, and what are the professional development opportunities available to support teachers in making those shifts. I want to just note that, we are behind the national average in California in math, and the United States is well behind the international average in math as well. We do much better internationally on the international tests in literacy and science than we do in math. And so there's a lot of changes needed in California. And I would note that the framework looked at the high performing countries in math that have high and equitable performance in math. And they saw a lot of differences in what they do as compared to what we do in the United States. They teach fewer topics per year, and they teach the topics more deeply, a part of the deeper learning needs that I'm going to say a little bit more about. So they might teach 4 topics a year rather than trying to get through, 50 standards or 32 topics. And our new math framework really organizes it around big ideas where you can organize the big topics that kids really deeply need to understand. They also don't teach algebra, geometry, and algebra 2 in that order in high school. They teach integrated math in all of the high achieving countries. And then they prepare kids after 3 years of integrated math, where things make more sense when you pull the ideas together. They move right to calculus without pre-calculus, so they can get more mathematics done in the framework of high school and move into as well statistics and other advanced courses. They have integrated data science into their math teaching over the last 20 years. We're behind in that. The new math framework begins to integrate real data and the use of data analysis into math. So all of these are things that we want to see make us both more competitive in California and in the world in math, which is fundamental to the new economy. We also are really trying to help people accelerate students for learning recovery rather than remediate, putting kids into, remedial courses that are labeled such and then slowing down the curriculum rather than speeding it up. And one of the reasons for that is virtually all students are motivated to learn the very next thing they're ready to learn. If you can be diagnostic about where they are in their progress, when they experience the encouragement and evidence of progress, and obviously the supportive teaching. Few students are motivated by being labeled as behind or below and placed in a remedial setting that couples often boredom with stigma. And one of the things that we've learned through the science of learning is that kids' learning is affected by whether they think they are good learners, by their own perception of their progress. And so when we label students in particular ways that communicate that they're not doing well, they take that on into their identity, and it actually impedes their learning progress. One of the things we've seen in some studies that really allow kids to go, be diagnosed for where they are in their math learning. And as you know, many kids are years behind. They've missed many concepts. And then it's very hard if you're marching through grade level standards and they've got holes in their knowledge for them to move ahead. But as people are doing more diagnostic work, as they're creating more small group opportunities, using technologies in productive ways, doing one-on-one tutoring, and meeting kids where they are, they make much greater progress much more quickly. So the top line here shows the rate of change for students in schools that were allowed to be taught out of the grade level standards wherever they needed to be met. And then, as accumulating all the concepts that are sequential in mathematics. The bottom orange line is the gains made by students in schools or districts that were just focused on the grade level proficiencies and only allowed to use those as part of their learning. And therefore they were being, many of them were still confused, behind, couldn't catch up, couldn't build their foundation. and had much lower gains. So this is a thing that we all need to think about, is how do we really help students with learning recovery by meeting them where they are and moving them rapidly forward. This is something we've known for many years. Benjamin Bloom back in 1984 did this study that showed that if you teach kids in the conventional way, give a chapter, give a test, give a grade, give a chapter, give a test, give a grade, you get that bottom curve, which is spread out like a bell curve, in which a lot of kids are performing relatively poorly. If you move to mastery learning, where you explain things, give kids opportunities to work on it, give them feedback and give them more opportunities to work on it until they master it, you move the curve over and more kids do well. But if you do one-on-one tutorials where you actually meet kids where they are, you move the curve dramatically over so that more kids are doing well and the total learning is much higher. So we know that from many, many studies, when tutors are trained and used, they can move the needle multiple grade levels at a time. And this requires us to think differently about school, because we're used to having, 30 kids in a class with a single teacher, and that's what they do all day in elementary school, or they go in middle and high school from one teacher to another who has, a course class load of maybe 30 and then the total load of 150 or something. And we have not, until recently, begun to really think about using people and time differently in schools so that you can, within the classroom, differentiate more fully with individual and small group work times and bring in paraprofessionals, trained volunteers, and others to manage some of that differentiation. Using designated acceleration times during the day, where you can get individual and small group tutoring and extra practice and revision. That might mean special lab classes attached to courses. I helped start a school some years ago in a community where students came to high school about 5 grade levels behind in math, and we needed to teach Algebra 1 in 9th grade, but we taught a double block of Algebra 1 for the whole year and attached a lab class where kids could get caught up on missed learning in prior years. And then they could go ahead and complete the A through G sequence in high school successfully. But we need to think much more creatively about how we're going to use time and people and learning opportunities, double block periods, after school, Saturday school, summer school. All of those should be used in ways that help students accelerate. And we really need to do that in math, given how far behind many are and how important math is to a technology supported economy that we have in California. So as you know, the world has changed dramatically. The economy is changing at breakneck speed. This has all been happening in the last couple of years. The introduction of AI is accelerating this process further and faster. There are 3 or 4 different major economic forecasters that have all predicted that about 30% of our jobs in the next 5 years will disappear or be radically redesigned as a result of AI. And then this rapid restructuring is going to continue even faster after that. And what this means is that kids need technological fluency, quantitative fluency, whatever the job is, it's going to use both technologies and be affected by AI. And the demand for skills continues to increase for the complex higher order skills rather than the routine cognitive or manual skills that were rewarded and that are at the heart of our testing system. The dilemma we have is that the skills that are easiest to teach and test are also the ones that are easiest to digitize, automate, and outsource. So we're going to have to really respond to the change in the economy in ways that enable students to get a new set of skills beyond those that we have really built into our system in the past. I live right up the street from Google, not the street, but down the road, very close by. And, they did a big study some years ago of how grades and test scores predicted success at Google. And they found that there was no predictive power for those traditional school measures for success at Google. They ultimately decided, looking at it deeply, that what predicted success in a place like that was what they called learning ability. Learning ability is the ability to find information, have a problem posed, find the information, understand it, couple it with other knowledge and other information, analyze, evaluate, integrate all of that information, work with a team to collaborate to develop a solution or a strategy, put the knowledge together to do that, and then self-correct the strategy or the product or the solution, evaluate it, and not look for somebody else to tell you what to do, but to be able to evaluate it yourself and take the initiative to revise and refine and perfect the work that you're doing to self-manage and improve. And of course, our kids are going to have to be very skilled at learning to learn because the economy is going to continue to change. Yet we've got them mostly in a curriculum that was designed in 1892. So here is the committee of older men appointed by the National Education Association in 1892, and the A through G requirements, the curriculum that most high schools use, was designed then before there were any, kinds of large data, technologies, interdisciplinary strategies for learning that we need today. So, for example, in California, this is shocking to me. Only about half of our high schools even offer a course in computer science. It's not prioritized in the math area C requirements. There's not really a clear home for it in the college going requirements. And only a third of high schools that serve a concentration of students of color offer any computer science courses. So we've got to figure out, not to mention the fact that, kids are mostly getting the coursework in some schools in a way that's pretty abstract and isolated from the way the knowledge is used in the real world. And we've kind of got these particularly high schools designed in the early 1900s that adopted the factory model because it was the cool thing to do. Henry Ford had figured it out. He invented the assembly line. The large schools were designed to pass students along this efficient assembly line. We adopted the age grading system so kids would move to a different teacher every grade, and then the platoon system where they would move to a different teacher every 45 minutes in the middle and high school. I will say that as a result, our kids in the United States see twice as many teachers over the course of their school careers as students in most other countries. The teachers were individual workers on the assembly line, which is why there's no collaboration time, because they were just supposed to teach the prescribed curriculum and stamp students with the lesson as they passed by. And then tracking was designed explicitly to separate students by race and class, because the eugenicists were actually part of the scientific process that they identified as designing the schools. And the schools were explicitly called upon and designed to select and sort rather than to develop talent. The idea was that lots of kids would fall off the assembly line along the way. They would just go to work in the factories and the farms and the mills, and a few kids would finish, and even fewer would go on to college. So we didn't build into the system all of the supports that kids need to actually succeed. And we're trying to get this system to do that today. And educators are doing the very best they can to make a system not designed for what we need right now to do things it wasn't designed to do. We found in a recent national survey that only 29% of kids felt their school provided a caring, encouraging environment in middle or high school. Most felt that there was not an adult who knows them well. A recent national survey of high school students found that 75% had only negative feelings about their school experience, and the most common adjectives were tired, stressed, and bored. So we're working to change this system to meet the new demands. We've got a lot of pieces in progress in California. We've got new high school models in many districts, linked learning, new tech, high tech high, college and career pathways, like linked learning, which are smaller academies that connect to the work to the real world. We've got dual credit coming online statewide, so that the goal is that all kids could get access to at least 12 units of dual credit in high school, maybe getting them on the path to or completing an industry certification or a pathway to a job immediately, or a pathway that they could build on to go further into the professions or the various areas of the industry. We've got more work on apprenticeships and work-based learning going on. We're bringing that into the College and Career Ready Index. We have a new career master plan that the governor just released. And we're looking to get a career passport that allows competencies to be identified that students can translate into coursework. I'm getting a note that my computer might die on me, although it is plugged in, so I'm hoping that doesn't happen. But if it does, I'll call back in. So all these things are going on. We have many new models with common features of successfully redesigned schools that have small learning communities and teaching teams that share students, advisories so that the advisor knows the student well and connects to the parents and allows kids to have support in their academic as well as social emotional learning, a community connected curriculum, project-based performance assessments and exhibitions, restorative practices, and a variety of student supports that allow teachers to meet their needs more effectively. We see that in the linked learning initiatives in California. There are 600 linked learning pathways that are built on these designs, and we've seen that these schools support stronger achievement. They have higher graduation rates. They have increased post-secondary enrollment and success. We just put $500 million into building more of these kinds of pathways across the states. You should be thinking about this in your counties. I'm sure many of you are. And the new emphasis, although we will continue to fund the existing emphases, are green technologies and STEM, health professions, and I'm very excited, K through 12 teaching. These pathways and programs that are being funded right now have to include dual credit options and articulate pathways from high school to post-secondary and partner with post-secondary so that we streamline the way in which students are launched into their futures. So the action plan that we're developing, I will say we are one of 6 states that is working with the National Association of State Boards of Education and to redesign high school. There are red states and blue states. We just got together with representation from our Department of Labor, our Department of Education, our State Board of Education, and our community college system to complete a portrait of a graduate, to use that as a North Star for the state for policy decisions, to further develop those career pathways, to establish, and it's in the budget proposal, a secondary school innovation pilot program for redesigning secondary schools, to consider assessment and accountability reforms that focus us more on those skills of learning ability, of being able to learn, and to move us forward towards that kind of flexible learning and thinking. To advance performance-based assessments that will demonstrate competencies. We've got a lot of schools now that graduate students by performance-based assessments that show what they can do in various content areas with research projects and other demonstrations of competence, and potentially to get to a competency-based transcript. There are a lot of resources for this work. I'm going to share this PowerPoint for anyone who wants it that allow us to think about design principles for schools for the future. And I want to stop there and see what questions you might have. And see if I can get the cord I'm using on my computer for some reason is not charging it properly. So I hope I don't lose you.
Please take a second to do that while we arrange for a question or two to go forward.
Okay, I'm charging now. That's good news.
Okay, good.
I think I saw Raina's hand first, then Michael's.
And thank you so
And
much.
maybe if you could take down the question slide, I could see people.
Absolutely.
I would love to see everyone. I'm going to try to get me on a gallery view here. There you are. Great to see you.
Great that you're here. Thank you so much for the presentation. So I had a question about the anticipated time frame that it would take to redesign California schools?
Well, it's a long process, but many schools that have launched into redesign can get going in a year, and in 2 or 3 years be, differently designed. Some people are starting new small schools within big academies. We're working right now with Anaheim Union High School District, which is had to merge a middle and a high school. So rather than coming out with a bigger, more anonymous secondary school, they're redesigning it. They went and visited some schools that had already done it, and they've had a year of planning. They've got leadership from their administrator and teaching force, and they will open in the fall with a newly designed set of small learning communities in their bigger school with advisory systems and a variety of other things. So they've done the planning in a year. They've brought everyone along. So it takes some doing, and it won't be done the first day, right? You have to continue to work on it. But it is possible to make changes at the school level, within a relatively short period of time.
So if a school is interested in this program, how do they connect with you? Like, what's the process?
Well, I'm happy for people to connect with me personally, but I'll also say that if the budget passes, we just got the May revised, the sausage is being made right now. There will be $15 million available for people to apply for to be part of the Innovative Pilot Project.
Fantastic.
And
Thank you so
meanwhile,
much.
at the Learning Policy Institute, we have something called the Center for School and System Redesign, and we're working with districts that want to work with us now. And we're helping them get connected to the people who can hold their hand and coach them, day to day, as well as being part of a network.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Michael.
Hey, I'm Mike Greer from Darling-Hammond County. Appreciate you taking the time to talk with us. I've been going through some of the workshops that we'll be presenting at the annual education conference, and they deal with a lot of the things you're talking about with new high school designs and so forth. My question, though, is how does the new math framework differ from Common Core?
It is based on the Common Core. So all the Common Core standards are in the new math framework. It organizes the standards a little differently in the sense that there are a lot of standards, and if you try to plow through them one at a time, you treat a lot of things very superficially. So it's organized the standards into big ideas that, for example, ratio and proportion is a big idea. And there are a lot of standards that deal with it. But if you really dig in with kids and help them start to understand the idea of ratio, which is fractions and decimals and, and proportion, and you use that big idea to go deep on that concept rather than doing little tiny exercises that don't add up for kids, you can get more powerful math learning that way. And that's the way that it's organized in other countries. So the Common Core is still there. It's organized into these big ideas. There's a lot of support also for ways to build very rich tasks that are accessible to a range of kids and challenge the most advanced students, while also engaging and supporting learning for other students who are not as experienced yet. It also provides advice, by the way. A lot of districts want to and should accelerate some students, some or all students in 8th grade to high school math so that they can take more math over that period of time. But it's been, I would say, differentially successful in the past because people haven't thought about what do you need to do to make that successful. So it also offers advice for how to do acceleration more successfully, how to train the teachers, how to redefine the 6th and 7th grade curriculum so there aren't gaps when you get to the 8th grade acceleration and things like that. So, but the Common Core standards are right there.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right, we'll go to Judy next, then we'll grab a question from the chat, then come to Greg and Marcy.
Hi, thank you for talking with us. Many years ago at a conference, they mentioned that the United States teaches a whole litany of subjects, just a little bit where other countries teach just a few things a mile deep. When
Yep.
are we going to change and take the extraneous garbage out of our curriculums, get back to just teaching the basics?
That's a really good question. And it's like I was saying about math, and I remember the first year of middle grades math in Japan. It's, deepening the understanding of integer, teaching ratio and proportion, teaching estimation. It's 4 big ideas. I can't remember the 4th one. We've got people trying to get through 32 different topics. And so, they can go deeper, they learn more because they learn it more deeply, and then you can wrap other things around it. So, we are trying to do that in math. It's also true in the way science has been taught, where it's like, memorize a whole lot of facts. What you need to learn schema and concepts in science, but you also need to learn the scientific methods so that then allows you to pursue your own knowledge beyond, whatever you can learn in school. So I think that is something that people are trying to do in the United States, but we do have this tendency.
We have so many mandates that
Yeah, we have a lot of mandates. And the other thing we have, and those often come from the legislature. And I will tell you that we've been kind of, trying to get the legislature to slow down on that, because it does right now it's hard for kids to get through high school. There's so many mandates between A through G, financial literacy, and on and on and on. So I am working with the higher ed system now. We've got some new practices where we can come together and talk about the curriculum. So maybe we can stop loading it up to the point where kids can't go deeply into anything, right? Because they've got to check all the boxes. So I appreciate your concern. It's one that I share.
It's one that I share as well. We have a question in the chat from Renee. How can county board members promote these changes as positive and necessary within the county where they serve? Any specific suggestions?
Well, one thing to do is in every county, there are schools that are doing these things and some that are doing things very well. And I think one way to promote an idea is both to ground it in reality and then to figure out ways that people can access support to try the ideas and to build them. So, there are redesigned high schools in every county in California doing great work. There are schools in almost every county that are seeing strong gains in literacy and in math and are using the tools, well. So I think that's one thing, is because, educators often feel, and I'm sure some of you have been educators or are educators, like there's so much always coming down on us, right? And, now it's another thing, and now it's another thing. And I get that. I think that's a real legitimate, feeling. So in order to want to do something, you've got to see it working somewhere. And then you got to, I find it's great to take people on site visits and go talk to the other educators who are doing it and kick the tires and say, well, what do you do about this? And what do you do about that? And how does this work? And how does that work? So that before you adopt something, you can get some credible reassurance that it might be the right thing for your school or for your kids. So I would say that and one of the things we do on the high school redesign front at the center that I was talking about at the Learning Policy Institute is we advertise where all of the different school site visits are going on across the state from the different schools that have been redesigned and the organizations you can connect with and join and be part of. And then I think that gives people, sort of room to make decisions and potentially buy in.
Greg, you are up next, friend.
Yeah, thank you. I wanted to take you back to the issue of AI, but now in the classroom. There seems to be some potential along the lines of high quality tutoring around areas, particularly for math. I've heard that in the past, that's been so financially out of reach to have one-on-one high quality tutoring in so many of our school districts. But AI seems to have that potential. And I wonder what you thought about that. And more generally, the the aids of AI in the classroom, are they great ones that could be useful, or are they really more of a threat? So just a specific question around tutoring, and that more general one around AI and its relationship to teaching in the classroom.
And when you say a threat, what would it be a threat to? Are you worried about teachers
Well-
losing their jobs or something like that, or some other kind of threat?
Well, honestly, what I think about is that notion that, we can pretend to teach and they can pretend to learn. That is, we could have them go write something and come back, which AI will write, and then we could have AI grade it for us. That's the kind of general threat I'm talking about, that they
Yeah.
become so mechanized in that sense that we
Yeah.
lose that one-on-one contact, face-to-face connections that really I think is an intrinsically important part of education. So I think
Absolutely.
both potential and threat as well.
Yeah. So let me just say that part of what I think is successful about tutoring is the relationship, right? It's not only the content. It is the one-on-one relationship that, kids, we know from the science of learning that human beings are relational, that we learn as a result of our relationships and experiences. Just to give you an example, there was a study done of young babies a while ago about learning another language because their brains are very plastic and flexible. And they had a group of kids who had 6 months. I think this was English-speaking kids in the United States, but got worked with there was an adult that met with them, in some regular period of time, and spoke to them in Chinese and Mandarin, and taught them Chinese. And there was another group that got the same instructions, so to speak, on a television monitor, talking to the baby. And the first group of young babies, these were toddler age, were as fluent in understanding Mandarin at the end of the 6 months as kids who were growing up in China. And the second group learned nothing at all from the television monitor, because it's the interaction between the human beings that actually allows for a lot of the learning to take place. So that said, I don't think we can abandon people. At the same time, I think AI could be a tool that people could use in tutoring that could be helpful. And my daughter is just graduating with her PhD soon, and she used AI to teach her how to do structural equations modeling and things like that. And she'd say, well, I want to do this with these data. Now, AI will make mistakes, so you have to be aware of that, right? It makes a lot of mistakes. So you have to be always coming around at a different way. But she used it to teach her specific statistical techniques and then to check on how you validate and verify those. You could do that in tutoring with a kid in math, right? And you could get explanations, and you could get examples, and you could get, representations, graphic representations or videos that will come up for you. If you say, I want to see, what this looks like, give this to me in 3D, I want to see how that would, parametric, representation would look in this way. So you could do a lot of things with it, and you could get some instruction, and it could be helpful to kids even in younger grades. But I think there has to be an adult there, both to figure out how to use it and to create the relationship that is part of the learning.
So true. Thank you so much. Marcy, time for your question.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Hammond, for sharing the information with us. It's so great to see you and hear all of these things evolving for our state. I just read a report from CCBE, Matt Navo and his team, talking about turnaround takes time, and one of the key factors is willingness to change. And I'm wondering, in the big picture, are there carrots other than funding as opposed to sticks to help our school systems, our teachers move into that willingness category to change how we teach and how we do things? Can you address some of that?
Yeah. On the school redesign thing, I would say that, it's harder to change an existing structure than it is to start a new structure. And so, and that's an incentive. When I was in New York City for a while, I taught at Columbia, And there was a chancellor, Joe Fernandez, who in like 1989 said, because the big factory model high schools were failing miserably at that time. And he just put out a sort of a invitation to educators and community members working with educators to propose new school models, small school models. They could put multiple small schools in a big building. They could end up doing, in other sites, they could do a small school. Using what had been learned about the way in which to organize instruction more productively, the ways in which to organize adults and kids together more productively. And literally hundreds of new small schools were created. And in the evaluations since then, and there was a big incentive. People who are working in dysfunctional systems do not enjoy working in those systems. I was a high school teacher. I know what it's like to work in big factory model schools where you have kids going by every 45 minutes and you can't know any of them and you don't get to plan with any other teachers and et cetera, et cetera. It's just grueling, grueling work. So people found the opportunity to invent. Now, they only accepted the most well-designed schools. They had people who could help them bring them into existence, et cetera. But I think that, incentives in part are the opportunity to start with a clean slate and start over again. I think they were able, because they had figured out how to do it in these new small schools, to provide at least 8 hours a week of collaboration time for teachers, to provide opportunities for decision making among teachers, to provide coaching for them in content areas, to develop new assessment systems. So innovative, creative people could create these schools where it was such a joy. It is such a joy to teach that I remember one of these schools that was a big failing school, Julia Richmond. If you went there today, it's got 6 or so small schools in it, where kids are graduating at rates of 90% and going on to college. It used to be a third of the kids would graduate. They had shortages of teachers. They had police walking the halls because it was so dangerous. Now they've got 500 applicants for every position because it's such a joyful place to teach. And we see it in some of our schools in California. The RFK school in Los Angeles is designed on that model. And, it's a joyful place to teach. People want to be there. A lot of the linked learning sites that I mentioned did not have chronic absenteeism, in the way that other schools had, because kids were working on their projects and they wanted to be in school, and teachers were, working with them and wanted to be there with them. And, it was a place where the learning was engaging. And they figured out how to do the A through G courses in a way that's actually connected to real world learning. And that changes everything. So I think we may need to allow some big buildings to become populated by newly designed small schools, rather than saying, let's move the deck chairs around on the Titanic.
Over to you, Dave.
Okay. Well, let me follow up on that. And this may, in fact, be the question that helps close us out, because this has been fascinating. But as I put in the chat, and Marcy actually beat me to the punch, I would suggest 2 things. One is California, through your leadership, Dr. Kirsch's leadership, and others, have built the most sophisticated and powerful system of support that makes many other state very, very jealous, because it's thoughtful. It's got enormous amount of power. It's got enormous a number of tools built into it. On the other hand, I just want to ask you to talk a little bit more about, we do have lighthouse schools. We have a school that's proven that everything that we want to prove has been proven in 1, 2, or 10 places. What we can't do is scale.
Yeah.
Can you speak a little bit to what incentives, what could finally motivate to allow the bureaucracy to allow this stuff to grow, and then in fact become the commonplace. We tried charters. We've tried SB 1274, which is where I started my work with Bill Honig's shop. But what can you help us with about how to move that needle forward?
Yeah, I love that question. Thank you. And, one piece of it, I think, is we need to get to a place where the Department of Education and or the CCEE are regularly engaged in lifting up successes and where we can analyze what's allowing that success, put people in districts that are succeeding, in schools that are succeeding, in teaching roles for other districts, right? One of the things they do in Singapore is, and also they do this in some other Asian countries as well, is they match up successful schools with a network of schools that want to learn how to do the thing that they're doing, right? And we need to honor the wisdom of practice. There's some fabulous, creative places. And then we need to hold it up and catalog and create visibility. Like there should be a website, which we do not have in California. Some states do have them. I have not been successful yet in getting anyone to want to do this yet, but where you could just go and find out all of the success stories and how to connect to learn about them and to learn how to do it. So that is, we're very diffuse, we're very decentralized. The department's agenda has been, they've been funded. I shouldn't say it's like their heartfelt agenda. They'd like to do this, but they've been funded to do compliance, for all of the state and federal categorical programs and so on. And the other thing we need to do is figure out the bureaucratic barriers, including state board regulations and ed code elements that are standing in the way. The people who are most creative figure workarounds, but not everybody's going to figure a workaround. We need to figure out what's standing in the way and what would actually leverage different approaches to practice. So we have a complicated attendance system, which is grounded in seat time, and it's it counts the minutes in a variety of ways. If you try to use independent study to do distance learning or something, you see all the ways in which that operates. So those kinds of things were invented for another time. There are other things that I have no doubt are standing in the way. I want to hear from people in the field who are uncovering the innovators who work around the rules, but actually change the rules so that they are also supporting the kind of work that I know we want to do.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Linda Darling-Hammond, for your presentation and for your thoughtful responses to our questions. We want to go ahead and pivot back to the schedule for the day. We had to make a quick audible. We thought that the dialogue and the conversation was so high value that we went ahead and scrapped the breakout groups that we had planned. And instead, we're going to conduct a whole group reflection. So what we're looking to do is hear from a few folks on the call, a few of our attendees, a reflection on what's one thing that you heard that excited you or resonated with you. What are some strategies that you want to bring back to your county or your board? What additional information do you need to develop plans or make decisions? And then what's one step you can commit to taking? I'm looking to get one response to at least each of these questions. My friends know
I'm gonna listen in if you don't mind. Is that okay?
that is absolutely fine. Please.
Okay, I'm gonna go off video, but I'm gonna be here.
Here we are. Folks, you all know I like to play the eye contact game. So we don't get called, let's go ahead and get some volunteers. We need one response for each question.
Well, I'll start with the first one. And what excited me most was cut down the number of different subjects and concentrate on the basics.
Here, here. Thank you, Judy. Anything else that most resonated or excited anyone from what you heard today? Marcy.
I'll jump in. I'm excited to know that there's focus happening on math. It seems like it's been a long time coming, and the focus has been on literacy, which of course we need to have literacy. Not saying that that's not important, but I feel that, it's about time, and I'm so happy that we're doing work on math.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Marcy. Let's hear some responses to what strategies would you like to bring back to your board or your county?
well, let me jump in there because what I think this presentation and presentations like this, it gives board members, which we all often don't have, the larger concept or the larger view of the different tools that are out there and the different places that we can talk about how we can in fact utilize those tools in our own communities and how we can benefit from it. Because it's not like, well, what do you? No, there are a whole host of ways that there are programs, tools, resources that at times I don't think we know about, and I think this sort of conversation helps us.
Thank you, Dave. Go ahead and jump in, Michael.
I think one thing is I'm grateful that I'm also a unified school district member, because a lot of the things she says I can put into place as a board member as a unified school district. As a county, what I'm looking at, the things that were said is, what kind of training can we give to the other schools within the county? And so I think there's something that I take from it. These things are there, but how do we put it out to the other districts? How do we get it out to the smaller school districts? And I think it's the county's responsibility to take some of these things and have either trainings or information available to the smaller school districts within the county.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you so much for that thoughtful response. Let's hear 1 to 2 responses to what additional information do you need to develop plans or make decisions? When you're thinking about your county, your board, what additional information will you need to go ahead and get started?
I'll jump in. I am excited about more competency-based transcript, in particular because of our community school kids and our court school kids. You know, they're going back and forth from one system to another, and you know, the coursework just doesn't. The movement isn't as smooth as I believe it could be if we moved into competency-based work. And so I guess I would need to know, it would need to be a collaborative effort that everybody that came to our county systems would be involved with the competency base. So you know, it's where are our districts on this path? Where is the state in terms of that path, and how can we get it moving faster?
Thank you, Marcy. And then one more comment to bring us home. What's one next step you can commit to taking in your county? Looks like we're going to get a cold call.
Well, you can always talk to your legislator and recommend they don't add more requirements to high school graduation.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Judy. Oh, Doug, I saw you come off mute. Go ahead.
Yes, I just think one thing would be sharing this information with our board. I think it's been very valuable. I was really surprised at some of the statistics regarding literacy and a little bit more surprised about math. So I think sharing that with our board, which we can spread out to and disseminate out to our smaller schools, would be a very positive thing. Thank you.
And that is the perfect note to bring us home on. Thank you so much for your comments, folks. As usual, we have a survey ready for you all, and we want to take a few minutes of the call to go ahead and give you a chance to reply to it. Oops, let me go ahead and grab the link one more time for you so I can drop that in the chat. But what we'd like to do is take the next 5 minutes to go ahead and complete this survey. It's a experience and topic request survey. So for today's workshop, you'll go ahead and think about that one and share your experience, pluses and deltas. And then as you're thinking ahead, thinking about things that you would like to see ACCBE cover, topics you'd like us to bring presenters around for, go ahead and give us any of your best guesses or any of those requests as part of this survey as well. So that link is open and available for you. You should be able to start responding to it. I'll go ahead and stop talking so you can focus on your responses, and I'll set a timer for about 4 minutes, and then I'll come back.
Is it in the chat?
It is in the chat. I'll drop it in again. And please let me know if you have any technical difficulties.
Hmm.
Is it working for people? I just want to double check.
Oh, not for me. I don't.
Oh, uh-oh.
Is it working for others? There are a few of us that seem to have some problems. It's probably our fault.
It's not working for me either.
Works for me.
Oh, well, but of
Works for
course,
me.
Sarah, we always want it to work for you. That's excellent.
All right, so I heard Bev, Judy, and Dave. It's not working for you all. Let me try to get you a new link. 1 second.
Works for me.
I got my own information that you wanted, not something about this topic.
Say again, Judy?
I got a form that wanted my information.
Mine
Right,
comes
right.
up with
That's
sign
the
in.
that's how it starts. That's the opening section of the form.
And what I'm running into is sign in to continue, and when I click to sign in, it doesn't let me do it. So, do you want to put one of the prompts in the chat, and those who can't do it online, which I hope it's
what
just
I'll
a few of us.
actually do, I'll have it linked in our slides. So when we send out our follow-up thank you emails and our we missed you emails, you'll have the survey link in there as well.
Thank you.
All right. I'll go ahead and move us forward in the interest of time. All right, so our next steps, folks, we hope that you will join us on June 16th for our first literacy spotlight, overcoming reading difficulties, understanding reading difficulties, actually. We'll be having presentations from our friends at UCSF, the DeVoe Bar Group, and our friends at Sacramento County Office of Education. We'll have a literacy specialist, a policy specialist, and a researcher coming out to talk about literacy and share with us some of the latest and greatest about California policy and some new research. Also, keep your eye out for an invitation to our advocacy committee meeting if you are a member. Also, our member experience survey will be linked both here and the previous slide for you to complete. And if you're looking for some coaching or you would like to sign up for a coach, as a coach, please reach out to myself or Bina, and we'll get you placed with a coach or mentee. Dave, I'm passing it back over to you now.
Okay. Well, it's time for thank yous, and it's time that we're going to try to give you 5 minutes back of your life. But it's a thank you to our founding members. You see on the screen in front of you the array of different county boards that have accepted the mantle of pushing forward for innovation and change and empowerment. And I'm hoping to see, as we go forward, more and more names there. Our intent, of course, is to have 58 names there, 58 counties. But at the moment, we are very proud of the work we've done. And with that, I'm ready to say good night. And here's our contact information. And at 7:25, we are 5 minutes ahead of schedule. And I'm hoping that you haven't had dinner yet, you all have the opportunity to have dinner and a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.